Power plant was a different kind of experience. It was a great experience, but the short story of that, but the important story is that's where I learned the client is not always right. Because when we signed on, we had this idea for this Victorian thing, and all of a sudden we're going to have rides, and and they just kept saying no rides in the power plant, no rides in the power. I said, guys, you're Six Flags. You have to have at least a ride or two. We have to have something.
Okay, we know it's not an amusement park. So what is it?
No, this is going to be a what they call them back then, a location-based entertainment center, LBE, location-based entertainment. I said, well, location-based entertainment can have a ride. We need to have a ride. I try to convince them at the very end, at least have one roller coaster, because my idea was the roller coaster would go inside around those smokestacks and then shoot out through a window over the harbor, come back in through another window, because then not only is it a great ride, it's a marquee for, everyone that sees that coaster shooting out there and going back in, they go, we got to go there. No, not going to do it. Then I said, how about a Ferris wheel? How about that, goes through the roof? And no, carousel, at least when you come in, there's some movement. No rides in the power plant. And I pushed it so hard over the course of a year that I got a letter from the head of the whole thing there. What was his name? Anyway, he says, Dear Gary, let me be very clear. There will be no rides in the power plant, period. Do not bring it up in any meetings, period. Do not write any more letters, period. There will be no rides in the power plant. All right. Okay, so we gave up. We actually thought about walking away from the project at that point, but we were young, we were getting started. I said, I don't know if we can walk away from a project because people may say, well, they just left these guys high and dry. In retrospect, we probably should have, because I should have known how serious we were about it. But here's the punchline. So now the power plant opens. It's not successful. It's successful. It seems to be successful for the first 3 months, but then it tails off as the word gets around. I get a letter from a lawyer on behalf of Six Flags. Dear Mr. Goddard, Six Flags is in the process of evaluating the power plant, blah, blah. How could you, as a designer, create a project that has no rides in the mix of attractions? This is I'm like in the Twilight Zone, right? So I go to my files, again, this is before internet. This is, kept files, everything. Pull out 4 or 5 choice letters that I had sent to them about wanting rides. And then of course, the first letter is the one from Ray, that's his name, Ray Grable, who says there will be no rides in the power plant. But what's great about that letter is from him, do not bring it up in meetings anymore. Do not write any more letters. It's so succinct and it's so clear that I had been fighting for rides. So I write back to this lawyer and I send him, I'm including 5 pieces of correspondence. I would direct your attention to the first one, and I quote, and I spelled it out there on the cover of the letter what it is. So there were no rides because no matter how much we tried to convince Six Flags to do it, as you will see from these correspondence, I said I have many more letters, but I've given you just a few of the key ones, that this was their directive. And I said, so if you were to consider a lawsuit, then I would have to countersue you for defamation and for this and for that and everything. I'm sure we don't want to go there. So the lawyer called me and said, okay, so I was wrong. I'm sorry about that and blah, blah, blah. And then 2 weeks later he calls and he says, we are looking at hiring someone to come in and try and fix the power plant. And I said, okay. He said, do you want us to? Yeah, we'd like to have your proposal too. So we sent a proposal, and in the proposal we said, we assume that in this new version we will be adding a ride or 2. And he writes me back and he says, no, there will be no rides in the power plant. We just want you to take what's here and try and make it better. And I just said, okay. I mean, I hate to say it because I'm never the kind of guy to take the money, but in this case I was like, all right, well, let's do what we can. We did. We tried to improve things, but of course it wasn't enough, because the one thing they needed to do was bite the bullet and put in at least 1 really cool ride. 2 or 3 would be better, but at least 1. I even tried to convince them to get permission from the city to put a ride. If you don't want to put it in the building, we have that whole pier in front, that was in front. Put a ride there in front of it so people would go, oh, that looks cool. That looks fun. So that was the power plant experience. That's where I did learn that sometimes you got to tell the client, I think you're going down the wrong road. But I always had that ability because I even did it before that with Jay Stein on the Dracula show. I mean, I was honest with them. A lot of people have just said, "Oh yeah, we can fix that for you," because they just want to get paid. They just want a contract, you know. But I think we've always been honest with the clients, and you know, same thing happened on the Admiral. We did the Admiral for Six Flags. Same thing happened there. You know, they did not want to do anything that was uniquely special. Their idea was keep it cheap, and they told me they were gonna. We had all this ideas for what to do in the ballroom. They had a big ballroom there to do some really cool live shows. They said, no, we're gonna put the Kids of the Kingdom in there, basically, you know, 6 girls and 6 guys. And I said, guys, you know, your public in the St. Louis area, they feel that they get those shows for free when they go to your park. When you go to the park, you have those singing and dancing boys and girls, and to them it's free. It's part of the. And now you're going to charge admission to get onto the Admiral, and your main entertainment is that. Everyone's going to say it's a ripoff. That's what I would say. I see those same guys performing at the park for free. Why am I paying admission to see them now? That's what happened. You know, to me, it doesn't take a genius to figure this stuff out. But for some reason, sometimes executives get a little full of themselves and they think they know better, I suppose. But that was frustrating. So those 2 things happened one another. The highest rated thing at the Admiral was they did do the St. Louis River Review, which is another animatronic show that was out in front of the Admiral on a separate thing, and that was a popular show for that genre, for the animatronic thing. St. Louis River Review and the Great Texas Longhorn Review were 2 really great animatronic shows in the style of the Country Bear Jamboree, but different.
Well, you did get two things out of it. You did get to work with one of your mentors again, Mr. Mark Davis, because from what I've seen from the concept art for the power plant, it looked. I'm too young to have experienced it, but it looked amazing.
Yeah, that turned out pretty cool. Tony Christopher, my partner in Landmark then, but that was kind of his baby. I mean, I worked on it too, like we all worked on everything, but that was his baby. But I asked Mark if he would do the characters because Mark was really my mentor at Disney, and he did a great job. And the guys that executed him, and we did the models, and everything was first class there. The biggest problem we had with that was that the animatronic company that built the animatronics didn't have the experience yet to do a show as complex as we designed. Whereas Mapo, they could have done that, but we really, really pushed them to the limit there. So there were limitations to the animatronics that I think didn't help the show. But it was a beautiful show. It was a great show for what it was, and we did actually pioneer that moving. You know, Mr. Electro and Proto would move along the track as they were talking in the front of the stage, and they would gesture as they were doing. It was pretty cool.
And now, introducing the star of our show, the all-electric man, Mr. Electro.
Welcome, willkommen, bienvenue, buongiorno, and greetings. I am Mr. Electro, and this is the Magic Lantern Theater. Now,
welcome to the Six Flags Power Plant, where imagination is served up on a microchip. Baltimore certainly has never seen anything like this. Ditto for the entire amusement industry, which is watching very closely.
Funny thing was, the first preview we give the mayor of Baltimore, they bring the mayor over and they want to run the show. I said, well, it's not really totally ready to run yet, but we can run the first number or something. And the mayor's there with his entourage and Six Flags guys, and Mr. Electro's over there, and we've programmed this thing and we've never had any problems with it. And literally, the music goes on and Mr. Electro comes out, da 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 da. He makes a gesture like this, and his head flies off. The animatronic character just goes flying off and hits the ground. And I go, stop, 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 and I pick it up and I go to the mayor. I go, now I bet you're wondering, how are they going to do that 5 times a day at this show? Oh my God. You're bringing back all these memories now. But anyway, yeah, but the cool show there was the Sensorium.
The Sensorium is my choice as the best of the shows, with its smells and 3D thrills which make it feel as though the earth moves.
The Sensorium, that was my baby, and I wanted to do, you know, it came out of the character of that we created, Professor Phineas Flagg. and that he wanted to create this camera that would record the smells and the feelings and the 3D images of time gone by. And so that was pretty cool. And that was really the birth of 3D 4D, 1981, I think.
Did you base the Mr. Professor Phineas flag on yourself? Because, like I said in the concept art, it looked very familiar.
No, what I did, Six Flags already had the name Flag, right? And I thought of, you know, Phineas T. Barnum, you know, and then and I was thinking of H.G. Wells. I'm thinking of all those guys, you know. And then the big one was Phineas Fogg. Phineas Fogg was the guy that went around the world in 80 days. So I thought, Phineas T. Fogg, Phineas T. Flag. People will feel they've heard that name before, Phineas T. Flag, even though they're probably thinking of Fogg, but don't remember it. So that really was more of that was creating that character to create a center of this whole idea, and that it came from the mind of this guy.